latest and final part of the state capture report has been released at last. Nearly 2,000-page document details, among others, corruption allegations within the SABC, the State Security Agency, plenty more besides. With the report finalised, speculation now, of course, is whether the President will take on implicated cabinet ministers and other government officials. Against this backdrop, of course, the recent arrest of two of the Gupta brothers wanted in South Africa in connection with state capture. So will this commission prove to be money and time well spent? Has it drawn a line under state capture once and for all? Well, let's discuss this now. Investigative journalist Sam Sol from the group AmaBhungane. Thank you very much for joining this evening, Sam, and legal expert Elton Hart. Sam, I have to start with you because you've probably done almost as much work as the Commissioner. If I think of the Gupta leaks and how much AmaBhungane has done to uncover state capture, talk to me about the significance of this moment.
Look, I think in a way the struggle is just beginning. It's a pity that you know the Chief Justice is constrained by his position not to comment, and it's a pity that the President's comments about this being an assault, having been an assault on our democracy, are going to be undermined, or already undermined by the questions around the President's own conduct, because we are at a crucial inflection point, because this was an assault on our democracy, and that assault is not over. The enormous amount of noise around the report around the President is really about the battle as to whether there's going to be accountability in the wake of this report or not. And there are huge forces that have been mobilized to try to ensure that in fact, this report goes nowhere. And I think this report represents an opportunity for us as a nation to regain control of our democracy, to regain a sense of real justice, a sense of real accountability, to change our politics. But it's going to be a struggle.
Talk to me a little bit about the Gupta leaks, which, of course, I think it was in 2018. It was that massive tranche of emails that exposed so much about the underpinnings of how state capture worked. Talk to me about how that probably influenced what came out at the State Capture Commission and the correlation between the two.
Yes, look, we had been looking at the Guptas before, but the evidence that we were able to present up until the Gupta leaks, and it was ourselves in collaboration, especially with Daily Maverick and News 24 and some other actors. But that evidence up to the Gupta leaks had been circumstantial. When those leaks came to us, we were able to see inside, the belly of the beast, to see how the machinery of state capture actually worked. And there's no doubt in my mind that provided an enormous impetus for the work of the Commission, and that the work of the media, not only ourselves, but the media more broadly, also provided an enormous roadmap, an important roadmap for the Commission. Almost every finding, every report that has come out up to now had its origin in a media report, whether it was AmaBhungane or other media.
It's very interesting this evening that the media gathered at the Union buildings were very clearly told, do not ask the President about Farmgate. We know the President spoke at the end of the Limpopo Provincial Conference. He made a few comments and he said, I'm not saying another word until the investigation is over. But at the same time, the President this evening has said, I've got 4 months to take action on what's in this report. How bloody do you think the next 4 months are going to be?
I think it's going to be a very rough and rocky road in the months up to the ANC's December conference. There are obviously a large swathe of people who can be broadly characterized as falling in the RET faction, who are going to be fingered by this report, who have been fingered by the earlier volumes of this report. But there are equally a number of individuals who are seen as allies of the president, who've also already been named and fingered by earlier volumes of this report. And the allegations against the president himself, while not flowing directly from this report, clearly flow from the process of the commission, flow from the unhappiness that especially Arthur Fraser has about the way in which he was treated by the authorities, by the commission, etc. And you know, has used his position in the intelligence services, in the intelligence world, to place before the nation information that really seriously attacks the credibility of the president as, you know, a change maker, an anti-corruption figure. We as a nation are going to have to think and very carefully and very independently of the political players and try to influence how this is managed, because you know, in a way, this is about
report, and the president speaking to what this report means for South Africa, saying it's not just a record of corruption in the country, it's also an instrument that South Africans can use to protect the country from state capture in the future. The minister in the presidency is with us, Mondli Gungubele. We'll ask him a few questions before we listen to some comments from the president. Minister, thank you so much for your time. One thing that stood out here is that the commission chairperson, the Chief Justice, his family was also placed under some stress. The commission staff's family was placed under some stress during the investigations. What level of danger was there then? What kind of intervention was there?
You know, the other day, Governor said, if you're cleaning mud, there's always a risk of having it splashed on your face. That's what happens when you confront life of malfeasance. A lot of things have been said about the judge, his staff, his family, in the open because of the era of social media. What a way to stand firm. What a way to deal with this matter within principles of the law. What a way to display what I refer to as effortless humility, yet sticking to the ball. What a way to transcend the incidentals and keeping the eyes on the ball. We salute the judge, his family, and his staff, and all other South Africans who actually took time to actually give support to this historic exercise.
Minister, one of the cabinet members is already implicated in this report, Minister Gwede Mantashe, and said he's taking it on review. The Part 5 and 6 has now been handed over. It deals with the evidence of the ANC and particularly the ANC's cadet deployment policy. But coming back to the administration and the cabinet, are you not concerned that this report and its findings could significantly hurt the credibility of the cabinet and this administration?
I think the most important credibility, Govan, is the credibility of South Africa. So any other credibility that stands in the credibility on the way of the credibility of the country will have to give way. In other words, the most important thing is how these reports and after implementation will lift the dignity, the respect, the brand South Africa. That is what is uppermost to us.
You don't think it'll divide the cabinet?
It will, if it will unite South Africa, it must divide anything. We don't mind whatever it divides.
Shooting straight there. Thank you so much, Minister in the Presidency, Mondli Gungubele. You heard it from him, and now let's take a look at what the President had to say about this report and what it means for South Africa.
The formal handover today of this final report represents the fulfillment of the remedial action that was set out in the State of Capture report as issued by the then Public Protector. The work of this commission is a vital part on our efforts to deal with state capture. The report is far more than a record of widespread corruption, fraud, and abuse. It is also an instrument through which the country can work to ensure that such events, such as state capture, never ever happen again in our country. As a nation, we owe a great debt of gratitude to the chairperson of the Commission, Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, for the monumental task that he and the evidence leaders, investigators, the lawyers, as well as researchers have been undertaking over the past 4 years. And this has been work that they have done in service to our people and our country.
All right, that is the President speaking just a little earlier at the release of the final parts of the State Capture Report. Govan Whittles, thank you very much. Also, Govan speaking to Mondli Gungubele, Minister in the Presidency, who makes a really important point, Sam Sol and Elton Hart, about the fact that he doesn't care what the State Capture or who the State Capture Report divides, as long as it unites the country. Govan, of course, asking a question about what might happen to the cabinet, much speculation around whether we might see a cabinet reshuffle. Elton, I want to bring you in from a legal perspective. Sam has just said to us that the hard work really begins now. There's a lot of information, a lot of evidence that has been placed in these reports. We've seen the arrest of 2 of the Gupta brothers. That is a different process. We'll chat about that in a moment. But talk to me from a legal perspective about how these findings move towards an opening of a docket and then eventually an indictment that will see someone facing charges. How difficult is that going to be?
Sally, as the guest has also indicated, that the hard yard starts now. Of course, obviously, how I see all these reports is allegations made by certain individuals against other individuals. Now, in terms of our Constitution, Section 35 of our Constitution guarantees each individual a right to fair trial. And that will mean that they will have then a chance, whoever accuses them of wrongdoing, they will have that chance to cross-examine them. And that's where the hard part comes in. Now it was nice. People were called, and some people might speculate and say that certain individuals were called to come and give evidence, and some were not even afforded the opportunity to cross-examine them. So now in a court of law, it's not that we work on a balance of probability. Now it's beyond reasonable doubt that you have to prove that a person has done something wrong. And that's where the tough part lies. And obviously now, getting these witnesses to come to court to come and testify. We already seen it's 4 years that it's taken the commission to actually just listen to the evidence. Imagine how long it will take a court case to actually finalize these things.
So we're seeing in action the process of the extradition of 2 of the Gupta brothers. Mthunzi Maga, the NPA, saying, guys, give us a break. We actually have all our people on this. We're doing our very best. We're not dragging our heels in any way. From what you've seen so far, bearing in mind the enormous challenge and difficulty of an extradition process, how do you think the NPA is coping?
I mean, I don't want to now point the finger at the NPA, but they're still struggling to get Bushiri back here in the country. The Guptas, I think they've got much more money than Bushiri. So they will take out every trick in the book to not come to South Africa. Because if Bushiri could have done it in Malawi, press money at everything, I'm sure the Guptas is going to do that. They will have their hands full.
And let's not forget, the NPA itself was hollowed out by state capture and has made great progress, but still has some way to go to bolster its forces. Sam Sol, bringing you in again, do you think that this will indeed be the instrument that could, if used properly, prevent state capture ever happening again? And I ask that because since the official era of state capture, we have seen pilfering of state resources. But I think there's a difference between that and this sort of broad strategy of taking over government structures for personal gain.
Well, look, I think the impetus for that strategy has not gone away. And I think what we saw, in the wake of COVID-19 was much more than pilfering. I think that the way in which Chief Justice Zondo deals with the political processes and some of the political culture and rules and structures that made state capture possible, is going to be very important in terms of whether we kind of capture-proof our society a bit more than it was. I think we mustn't forget that this report is landing at a time when all our institutions are severely weakened. It's not landing at a time where they are standing by to kind of pick up the spear and go forward. The NPA, I fear, is very weak. The police, the investigative capacity is weak. The political institutions are weak. The ruling party is deeply divided. There's a huge battle going on in terms of who is going to come out on top. And the report is going to be used for that. So I think there's a legal challenge. There's the challenge of taking this information and putting some high-profile people in orange overalls. And I think that we need to ask significant more tough questions of the NPA and the police in terms of how they're going to do that. But I think that there's a broader social challenge, a broader political challenge to the society, not to leave this in the hands of the NPA, not to leave this in the hands of politicians, to actually take this and use it as impetus for us to collectively take back some of our country and our democracy.
And Sam and Elton, a very quick question. I've got about 20 seconds, but I have to ask. I'm sure you're both going to be reading tonight, as I am. Which is the section you're going to turn to first, Sam?
No doubt, in my mind, it's going to be on the SSA. I think the impact of the capture of key institutions of the criminal justice system and the intelligence service under that is really part of the heart of state capture.
All right.
It's about a part of the heart of the capture of accountability.
So that's your bedtime reading. Elton, where are you going to start?
No, I've already started. My thing is, it speaks to cadre deployment and the capture of ESCOM, because for me, our deputy president back then, when our former president was the head of state, and the president goes as a combo, because our deputy president was in charge of ESCOM, he was in charge of the cadre deployment as a party affiliate. So those two things I've already read and I've already seen. And if we're charging our former president, then I think, and people might disagree with me, but our current president must stand next to him. That's my talk. That's my take.
That's your take. Lots of reading ahead for everyone. Thank you very much to Sam Sol, investigative journalist with AmaBhungane, legal expert Elton Hart. Thank you very much indeed. And also, of course, to Govan Whittles at the Union Buildings. That's where we will leave it for this evening. Thank you very much for watching SA Tonight. Marcel Gordon is up at 8.